At exactly 3:17 in the morning, veteran reporter Brian Entin sat completely silent in his broadcasting chair. He had just analyzed the raw audio feed from the Nolan Wells incident. This was the exact moment the official media narrative fractured permanently. We are looking at a forensic update that answers the most heavily debated question in investigative journalism right now. Is the viral Nolan Wells call a manufactured hoax, or is it a documented extraction event? Independent acoustic analysts just isolated a highly specific anomaly buried beneath the vocal tracks of that recording. It is a sub-audible frequency that I have locked in a secure offline drive. I will show you the visual spectrograph of this exact frequency at the end of this broadcast. Because once you understand the mechanical precision of what is hiding beneath the frantic breathing of Nolan Wells, you will realize this was never a simple crime scene. Why did a seasoned journalist immediately instruct his producers to cut the live feed and lock the studio doors? We have to rewind to the emergency FBI press briefing held on October 16th. The official narrative was coordinated, rehearsed, and delivered with absolute certainty. Federal spokespersons stood at the podium and made three major claims to completely shut down public inquiry. They claimed the audio was a crude artificial intelligence forgery. They claimed the digital footprints originated from a local domestic server, and they claimed absolutely no secondary individuals were involved. But in the last 48 hours, all three of those major FBI claims have completely collapsed. I need you to apply a behavioral analysis to the archival footage of that specific press conference. Watch the rigid posture of the lead legal counsel, standing just off camera to the left. Observe the rapid pupil dilation and the micro-expressions of severe distress the exact millisecond a reporter asks about the background static on the Nolan Wells call. In forensic psychology, sudden pupil dilation indicates an acute survival response. They were visibly sweating under the studio lights because they knew. Undeniable proof of evidence tampering was rapidly bleeding out into the public domain. What specific piece of classified intelligence were those officials desperately trying to keep off the record? The most credible revelations are not coming from primetime news desks. They are surfacing on restricted digital forensics boards used by private intelligence contractors. These analysts ran the Nolan Wells call through advanced phase vocoding software to map out glaring forensic discrepancies. The official report states Nolan Wells was simply recording a frantic voicemail in an empty room. But the network metadata proves the Nolan Wells audio was routed through a subterranean proxy server located in Reykjavik, Iceland, before bouncing to an abandoned private airstrip in Henderson, Nevada. This precise routing maneuver requires encryption keys that are entirely restricted from public access. The biometric data extracted from the audio file shows extreme involuntary microtremors in the vocal cords of Nolan Wells. These specific Hertz-level tremors cannot be artificially generated by standard deepfake software. They represent a physiological response to an immediate, localized threat. The biometric data proves Nolan Wells was under severe physical duress the exact moment that audio was captured. If this was not a fabricated deepfake, who exactly was standing in the room with Nolan Wells? Right here is where the official timeline completely deteriorates. We need to execute a deep dive into the 48 hours leading up to this transmission. The internet was flooded with theories that the audio was a catastrophic security leak. But Brian Entin noticed a very specific structural pattern in the way the audio was compressed and distributed. Profilers studying advanced interrogation tactics analyzed the breathing patterns on the tape. Nolan Wells was not hyperventilating from blind panic. Nolan Wells was breathing with the calculated, heavy intake of pure adrenaline. This was never a sloppy accident. The Nolan Wells call was a highly engineered digital deadman switch. Nolan Wells intentionally configured this exact audio file to auto-publish across decentralized networks the moment his physical safety was compromised. The entire debate over whether the audio is real or fake is a calculated psychological decoy, a brilliant diversion designed to keep federal investigators arguing about artificial intelligence, while the real extraction operation took place entirely in the shadows. If Nolan Wells purposefully weaponized his own voice as a digital tripwire, who was the primary target he was trying to expose? The exact second the dead man switch activated and the Nolan Wells call hit the public internet, a systemic erasure protocol was initiated. Offshore data centers connected to the Henderson, Nevada airstrip executed a total self-destruct command. We are talking about military-grade data scrubbing algorithms wiping terabytes of financial ledgers in under 14 minutes. Aviation logs recovered from the Henderson airstrip show a completely untraceable Gulfstream jet with a blacked-out transponder departing exactly 3 minutes before the server wipe initiated. Crisis management firms executed a total communications blackout, threatening aggressive defamation lawsuits against any journalist who analyzed the audio frequencies. But their frantic digital erasure left a glaring structural void in the server logs. An ex-intelligence contractor turned whistleblower finally broke their silence on a heavily encrypted network. This shadow figure provided our team with the raw server routing logs, proving that the communications blackout had nothing to do with protecting Nolan Wells. The blackout was initiated to protect a massive, unregulated private intelligence syndicate operating entirely outside of domestic jurisdiction. Who are the invisible stakeholders controlling this private intelligence syndicate? The stakes of this cover-up represent an unprecedented jurisdictional breakdown. Anyone who dares to trace the Reykjavik, Iceland server connections is being systematically compromised. We are documenting the freezing of offshore bank accounts, severe legal intimidation, and the absolute secret isolation of key witnesses. The psychological pressure being applied to these individuals is designed to break their credibility before they can ever testify. As this exact video goes live, multinational attorneys representing the syndicate are filing aggressive emergency injunctions to have this entire investigation permanently redacted. You must absorb every single forensic detail of this timeline right now before the shadow bans take effect. Which brings us to the visual spectrograph I promised you at the beginning of this broadcast. When Brian Entin and his team ran the raw Nolan Wells call through audio extraction software, they stripped away the human voice and the ambient room static. They isolated the hidden background frequency. When you view the audio file as a visual map, the background static perfectly aligns to form a highly specific set of offshore banking routing numbers tied to a series of anonymous shell corporations. The Nolan Wells call was never just a desperate plea for help. It was a covert data transmission, a digital lockpick containing the exact financial coordinates of a global systemic corruption ring. The unsettling truth is that Nolan Wells is just the fragile outer layer of a colossal shadow economy manipulating international policy. The rabbit hole never truly ends. How deep into the global infrastructure does this invisible syndicate actually operate? You need to subscribe to this channel right now to join our secure archive and stay protected from the ongoing media manipulation. We are aggressively mapping the architecture of this entire shadow syndicate in real time, and the corporate algorithm is actively trying to suppress this exact video. But I need your analytical mind working on this forensic puzzle right now. Look at the spectral audio evidence. Look at the Iceland server connections and the dead man switch protocol. Is Nolan Wells the ultimate mastermind playing a highly calculated game of multi-dimensional chess? Or is Nolan Wells just a disposable pawn who got entirely played by a global intelligence syndicate? Comment your exact answer below right now, because I am pulling the most highly detailed, evidence-based viewer theories to feature in part 2 of this investigation.